Welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. I am your host, David Dodge, and today I am joined by Bill Gross, the LA probate expert. Bill, how the hell are you, man?
Doing so good, David. It's just not even fair.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. Bill, thanks for coming on the show today.
Sure.
I know you're going to have a ton of really valuable information that we can share with our listeners and our viewers. And, you know, probate's one of these topics that we don't really talk about all that often. I think we maybe done one or two episodes out of about 300 that, you know, maybe mentioned it or talked a little bit about it, but we don't really have we've never had an expert on yet. So this is actually fantastic for us to bring you on, share a little bit of information about what it is, how it works, and why somebody would even care to know, you know?
Sure.
Bill, tell us a little bit, and again, welcome to the show, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm from Southern California. I grew up here, and I, most of my life, I've been in real estate 36 years. I started in lending, and I've been in real estate sales, management, consulting. Went back to production 2.5 years ago, meaning back to being a salesperson. But I focused on probate specifically 2.5 years ago, made that my niche, and sought to be an expert, not just by getting a certificate, but really learning what probate is, to be an expert deep in it. LA is the largest probate market in the country, so it was a big enough market to focus there. And I've built a very successful real estate brokerage business and people on my team as well, helping them, just focusing on people who have inherited property, trying to inherit property, investors who find a deal, but there's a title problem. What I tell people is usually your title problem is my probate opportunity. Let me help you fix it. And that's what we work on every day.
Awesome. Very cool. Been in the game 36 years. You focused on probate as your niche, done all types of other stuff. That's really cool. So thank you for that. That's awesome. Do you live in LA as well or no?
I do. I live in West Los Angeles right now.
Awesome. So you're doing probate deals in the market you live in. What do you do when you come across a probate deal? What do you do with
So I do a couple things. I represent investors. I look for properties in LA and in California. About 5% of the properties need court sale confirmation. So it's an opportunity where somebody's been in escrow for 45 days to step up and buy it and overbid it and buy the property. So I represent investors buying properties there 1 or 2 times a month. And usually those are fix and flips. They'll fix it up and then resell it. I represent estates and families and attorneys that have property that they need to get through probate. California in particular, very cumbersome. Some states are like that, others a little easier. So I help them through the maze. Rather than just selling the house, I can help them through the probate process as well.
Man, it sounds like you got all angles. So my partners and I have purchased properties from people that have gone through probate. We are in the process of purchasing a property from a guy that didn't know he needed to go into probate, and they started that process. And
That's
my wife's father passed away about a year ago, and we were on the inside of the probate side of things. So I was, with it being my wife, of course, I'm in real estate. I helped her get rid of the property. And in fact, we sold it to one of our friends who went and rehabbed it. So it was really cool. But I've seen kind of both sides of it. I know it's time consuming. That's about as far as I know, though. I mean, my wife handled the probate on her end, and it was just we had to get a lawyer, and the process took a long time. Here in Missouri, we were able to sell the property without lawyer or without judge approval, as long as we had 75% or higher of what it appraised for from a third-party appraiser. So we went through that process, was guided and coached by our attorney. Because we were like, we want to sell this thing right away, get rid of these expenses, let's sell it. And I didn't want to sell it to me because it's just not really, it's too close, it's arm's reach, all that type of stuff. So we just found one of my buddies who flips, and obviously that's what I do too. And we gave him a good deal on it. and we were able to sell it before probate was even over. Now we had started the process. Is that similar? Is that a nationwide thing, or is that just a Missouri thing?
Well, I think your process is very common countrywide. So here's the problem, though. You guys found a good attorney who's able to help you. Two things about that. One, 90% of the probate cases are done by attorneys that don't know anything about probate. And so, right, it's like a real estate agent. You know, I have a license. I can sell residential, commercial, industrial, leases, vacation homes. I can sell the Golden Gate Bridge. I just don't know how to sell the Golden Gate Bridge. But attorneys, you know, at least in California, the license allows them to do anything within the law. And then they'll take cases, criminal, DUI, corporations, divorces, and then a probate walks in the room and they go, wow, that's, you know, $10,000, $20,000 of fees. I don't want to let that walk out the door. So 95% of the cases in LA County are done by attorneys who've done one probate or less in the last 12 months.
That's terrible. So the guy I hired was a probate attorney.
So you got lucky, or you're smart. One or the other.
Yeah.
Most people don't think it through and they go, well, I know this guy, he's great. Well, he might be great, but doesn't mean he knows anything about the process. So it worked out for you, but for
ours
so
was
many
a friend.
people.
Yeah, and he ended up billing us $6,800 flat. So I thought that was a good deal.
So I'll tell you, as an investor, if you find that deal, if I could show you how to lower the cost for that by a couple $1,000s, that's profit in your pocket, right? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes either you or the seller has to pay that money, and if you don't know what that cost is, you have to kind of estimate it high. So for example, one of the things I do is I use a probate service. When an investor like you comes to me and says, hey, Bill, we got this deal, but it needs to go through probate. Depending on the case, I can look at it and assess it. And oftentimes we'll take it to a service that charges maybe $1,250 fees, plus there's the court fees and that. It's about another $2,000 or so, it depends. But so now we're out the door for $3,000 instead of $6,800. Well, either the seller is saving $3,800, he can give you a better price, or if you pay for it, it's costing you less. In his mind, he's budgeted $6,800, you're doing it for $3,000, there's your profit. So that's where I come into the deal.
Oh man, I love that. Because I paid $6,800.
Right.
Okay.
Not bad. I mean, by California, how much is the property worth?
$280.
Wow. So in California, it's based on the value of the property, not the net equity. That's the other problem. You can have $1 million house, and let's say you have a $700,000 lien against it. Well, the $1 million house triggers appraisal fees maybe up to $23,000, but you only have $20,000 of equity. Whether if it's free and clear, it's the same price for the fees typically. So that family comes to me and I say, well, I can get it done for you for $1,250 plus the fees, and save them a lot of money.
Anywhere
Obviously,
in the nation or just in LA?
So the service I use is actually nationwide. I have my own podcast, probateweekly.com. Okay. And I actually interviewed one of the vendors I use a lot. It's easy-probate.com. And I don't know if you want me to promote the service or not, but I'm not an affiliate. I don't get paid by them.
What's
I
the
just
podcast
love it.
name again?
Well, mine is probateweekly.com.
Probateweekly.com.
And if you sign up on there, it's Thursdays, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. And we do it every week. I put it into YouTube. If you register and can't make it, we'll send out a recording. But one of the past episodes, if you go to probateweeklyepisodes.com, I interviewed the founder of that company, Byron Bates, who runs Easy-Probate. So if you've gone to them instead of the attorney, now, again, the attorney can do certain things, depends on what you need. Some cases need an attorney. So my job is to kind of be the point guard. Do you need the attorney or not? I didn't say 10% of the time you need the attorney, but 90% of the time you don't. And I can save you, an extra, net bottom line. I can save you about another $3,000-$4,000.
Yeah, that's awesome. That adds up. Okay, so Bill, sorry to talk about me. This is about you. I was just telling you a little bit of what I know. So there's a lot of listeners that don't know what I know, right? So let's just take it back to the basics real quick. What is probate?
Sure. So I'll give you a cute definition I steal from a friend of mine, which is probate is when you file a lawsuit against yourself and whatever's left over goes to your heirs.
I like it.
Right? Because what happens is somebody's passed, and if they don't tell the world how their assets are to be distributed, then the state will step in and say, well, we'll take care of it for you. And the state runs that process as efficiently as they do everything else. I don't know what's like in Kansas, but it's like the post office handles your estate when you die. So there's procedures and fees that are ridiculous.
And you have to file probate.
File probate, that's $374 LA County. You have to publicize it. LA County costs $970 just to advertise that you filed the probate, which is crazy money. That's just to get started, right? So what happens is there's a defined process that you, And some people, now again, I don't know Kansas law. In most states, a will does not avoid probate. In most states, the will is adjudicated in probate court, meaning the will is what the judge is going to look at to interpret how to do a probate. You avoid probate in almost all states with a living trust. So kind of like
you
a
have a living
corporation.
trust,
Right.
and again, we're speaking generalities here, guys.
Yes.
There may be areas that are carved out, and that's not
Yes.
the point of this.
Yes.
Generally speaking, if you
Yes.
have a living trust, you do not need probate. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I would say.
Generally
Now, I'm not an
speaking.
attorney. I'm not giving legal advice.
Me
But as a
neither.
procedure,
Yeah, of course.
as a professional, I can say I've seen it over and over again. Occasionally, in a living trust, there's arguments. When did they sign it? Who signed it? Here's a prior living trust.
There's going to
here's a
be
will.
that in anything, though, right? There's always
Right.
going to be
But
issues, right?
What I tell people is that if you have a bad living trust, you're better off than 90% of the people with no living trust. So I tell people, get a cheap one online. Easy-probate.com does them for, I think, 300 individual, and I think it's 500 for a family, maybe 600. Get it done. You can then take that to your real attorney and get a proper estate plan if you have multiple properties or maybe multiple family members, kids from a prior marriage. All that adds up in the estate planning process. And an attorney might charge you $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 for a larger, complicated estate. But if you at least have a living trust, at least have one, you avoid probate. That's the key in my book, is at least get one.
Got it. Now that makes perfect sense. Okay. So guys, to recap, probate, you file a lawsuit against yourself, and then basically what's left over is what your heirs or your family going to get. Now, when you say against yourself, somebody else is filing this lawsuit, or are you doing it? Because like in my wife's situation, her dad was the owner.
Right.
He passed.
Right.
It was her and her two brothers. Her two brothers didn't know what to do. So me and her stepped up and said, hey, we're going to go get a probate attorney because there wasn't a will. There wasn't a living trust. I bought and sold. You don't know this about me, but I bought and sold 700 houses in the last 6 years. I know a thing or two about buying and selling. I know a thing or two about wholesaling. I know a thing or two about BRRRR method and fix and flip and all these things. I don't know much about probate. So of course, the title company is who I called first and said, hey, can I sell this thing? And they were like, is there a living trust and there a will? And I'm like, what are those things? Of course, I know what they were. I'm just joking. But I'm like, nope, we don't have any of those things. And they were like, well, you got to go to probate. So then, of course, I go to Facebook and I'm like, who do I know that's a probate attorney? And a guy calls me and he's like, hey, we went to college together. We're friends. Boom, you're hired. Let's go. Right. And that process, the entire process probably took 9 months, but we were able to sell the property in like 45 days, basically, once we opened it and got that guidance. All right. So very cool. So,
well, you're very lucky because you got good advice. You got a good attorney. You're also in the States, not as complicated as California, Georgia, Florida, New York, way more structured. So Kansas is a little easier, but even still, you can imagine you had to file the probate. And I don't know what it's like in Kansas, but in LA, if you file it and you have the wrong information, you didn't notice all the errors, you didn't notice all the creditors, they kick the paperwork back, it just drags on and on. Not a problem now when the market's going up, but imagine being in a market where prices are dropping. What's it costing you to wait an extra month, 2 months, 3 months? It can cost you a lot of money.
I get it. It makes perfect sense. Okay. So
COVID. There are people who, they filed and they use some stupid attorney didn't know what he's doing and it delayed things 30 days, 60 days. Boom, COVID shuts down the court in LA for 6 months. So you wait an extra 9 months because your attorney didn't fill out the paper correctly.
Man, that's annoying. I get it. Okay, so we talked about what a trust is, though. So I just need a clarification really quick, Bill. If my wife's, I'm going to use this as an example because it's so close to my heart, right?
It's perfect.
My wife's dad passed away.
Happens all the time.
Her and her two brothers. So he didn't file a lawsuit against himself. So just
I just use that as an analogy.
I'm just trying to clarify the definition.
Right.
So,
I just think it's cute to say your wife filed on behalf of him.
On behalf of him. Okay, got it. Okay,
right?
That makes sense.
And then what happens? Well, he has to go to court, and then anybody who files paperwork is kind of filing it against the estate. Like the people get paid first is the court, then is the state and local governments, the federal government. In California, if you get medical care treatment at the end of life, they come back and pull that money out of your estate. And then whatever's left, if there's anything left, goes to the heirs. But you're the last people get paid are the heirs.
Now, if you have a living trust, though, it doesn't seem to work that way at all, right?
Not at all.
So
because
you'd be an idiot to own a house that has equity in it and not have a living trust.
You can't do that. You can't do that. If you have a house, if you have in California more than $167,000 in the bank or of bank securities. Now, some accounts you have beneficiaries, like IRAs don't go to probate in California because they go to whoever you designate as a beneficiary. Life insurance doesn't go to probate in California. You have a beneficiary, that's who gets the proceeds. But bank accounts or value of real estate or other personal property, you could have a gun collection, baseball cards worth $200,000 in California, you got to go to probate to resolve that.
Interesting. Okay. So we talked about what is probate. We kind of briefly talked about why. Right. But if you don't mind, why would somebody need probate? Now, we talked about if they have a living trust, then they wouldn't. But if
Correct.
they don't have a living trust,
Right.
then they're going to essentially need it to be able to sell. And this is a real estate podcast, so let's stick to real estate.
Sure.
Right. They're not going to be able to sell that real estate, like their aunts or their uncles or their dads or their moms or their great aunt or their grandparents, who, whatever. Right. It's typically the heirs that are going to go to probate, because they can't sell. And this is what we face. I couldn't sell a property in my wife's dad's name. I didn't own it. The title company wouldn't let me sell his property. Right. But the probate paperwork made it to where we could do so. Correct. Is that why you would go to probate, is to where you're able to basically sell something that doesn't own to you, but you're in line, I guess, to get it? Or
so I would say in your case, you were like a consumer who inherited the property.
Well, my wife
was
was the heir. Of course.
Same thing. So she's a consumer and yes, but where I get my business is not you and your wife's property, but imagine you're door knocking, mailing, yellow letters, whatever you do to generate business. And some guy owns a house. He calls you up and says, hey, I got a house. I'm going to sell it. I'll sell it for 100. And you look at it. Wow, this is great. I'm going to buy it. $100,000 cash, ready to close. And then the guy says to you, well, the problem is it was actually my grandfather's house. My parents passed. And I don't really own it, but I'll sell it to you for $100,000. What do I do? That's a probate. And so the real money that I make, the more activity I do these days, is not when somebody dies, the family. That's part of my business, glad to help. But it's investors who find leads and go, I finally found a motivated seller, because they don't want to live in the house. They're often out of state. Mom and dad had the house, stayed in Kansas, kids moved to New York, moved to LA, moved to Atlanta or someplace. And there's this house, they don't want it. Mom and dad live there. It's thrashed. It's got furniture's 50 years old. They want to just sell it. You call them up. They're glad to sell it to you, but now it has to go to probate. What do you do? That's where you call somebody who knows what to do. And you just want the probate done quickly, efficiently, legally, so that you can sell the house. So that's normally more of a third-party investor who's going to help the customer so they can effectuate their investment sale.
Makes perfect sense. Would you ever use, or would probate ever be needed in the event of something else? So this is kind of a hard question to even ask, but I think you know where I'm going with this. So with death, that person owns it, they're dead. It sucks. This is life, guys. It happens. But let's say somebody goes to gets in a car accident and they're a vegetable now, or there's all these other options, right? Is probate something that would be utilized in these other situations, or no?
So in the same court, generally, what you're talking about is a conservatorship. Somebody who's doesn't have the capacity to make their own decisions.
Because they can't when they're dead. That's correct. Obvious. But there could be
if they have a living
scenarios.
trust, the living trust can say, once a doctor advises that you're incapacitated, then the trustee has the opportunity to step in.
So even more reason to get a living trust.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even more reason.
Because people are living longer, and you might meet somebody who's 80 years old, and one day they look fine, and they start having mental problems. Now they can't make decisions for themselves. So that's an example. Another one is guardianships. God forbid parents pass and have minor children. Minor children can't make decisions legally on their own. So you have to create what's called a guardianship. Very expensive. Both those, conservatorships and guardianships, are very expensive to do. If you have kids, literally, my daughter and son-in-law had our first grandchild last night. I sent him the paperwork to do his living trust because they need to have one now. God forbid something happens to both of them. We don't get to decide what happens to the grandchild. That's for them to decide if they have a living trust. Otherwise, we have to go to court and get the court to tell us, and we'll spend $50,000 to find out. So that's a whole nother reason to have a living trust, is to avoid medical issues like that. Absolutely.
Man, I love it. This is super helpful. You are filled with information and awesome knowledge. So this is just really great, Bill. So happy to have the opportunity to bring you on the show. And again, thank you for your time. Okay, so we talked about the what. We talked about the why. is there a win? And also, what's the difference between pre-probate and probate? The reason I ask is I don't know, for one, but two, I see when I'm in like, my lead generation sources. So PropStream and Batch Leads are really where I pull the majority of my leads. And they have like a pre-probate. I don't know what the hell that is. What is that?
Yeah. So pre-probate means they've determined that somebody who lived in that house died, and they cross-reference that person owned that property or owned other property.
Okay.
So now, if they have a living trust, it's not going to be a probate. So they screen out those that are living trust. So now you have a person that seems to hold title that's not in a living trust and seems to own real estate. Now, PropStream's great on those pre-probates. There's another service I use, probatesdaily.com does pre-probates. Same thing, same data source. Great source. It's not 100%. None of these data sources are 100%. They're screened. So I would say that they're a great source. Now, you can't market them saying, hey, Joe, I see that your father died. Can I buy your house? It doesn't work that way. But in the course of your marketing, I think you might want to make sure, I don't know, investors I work with have different ways of screening multiple screens in their PropStream data. And I would give more emphasis to somebody if I know the person who lived there died. I would maybe send them more postcards or more, instead of once a month, every 3 weeks, or instead of every 2 months, every 6 weeks or something like that. Because I know there's somebody there who probably died, owed the property. At some point, they're going to sell it, whether it's a probate or not. Now, when it's a pre-probate and you talk to them and they say to you, well, yeah, my dad died, but it's titled in his name. We have to go to probate. That's where I connect with investors and say, let me help you expedite that process, cut your cost, speed up the time period through, and hopefully earn the homeowner or the state, because that they can't sign a contract that's binding to purchase the property typically because they don't own it yet. But if you help them through the probate process, then they kind of owe you in a sense, or they're more likely to go along with the program. So that's where investors I work with work pre-probates as another layer in the marketing program.
Love it. Okay.
A little complicated answer, but that's really the ones I know make
that
money
makes
at it.
perfect sense because I didn't really understand what that was. Okay. So let's simplify though. When would somebody need probate?
Anytime the owner of the property has died and the deed doesn't transfer ownership. So for example, husband, wife, generally speaking, husband dies, it goes to the wife automatically, right? But other than those, or the deed in California, we have deeds
now, does
that
it
say,
always go to the wife though? Like, what if she's not on title?
Well, that's different. Now that's a legal question based on what state you're in.
Again, we're not going down that.
Typically, right? Did they own it before they're married?
No
that's
problem.
a whole.
I'm not here to be difficult. I'm just just curious. Of course,
that's a little more complicated. But again, those are things where you want them calling. I think you want, as an investor, and you talk to that owner, you want them calling you, asking that question. Once they talk to their local realtor, you lost the deal, right? So I want them calling me to ask those questions, and I'll work with the title companies to find out, or the attorneys to help them solve those problems. Your title problem is my opportunity. So I would say those are great questions that you want people, and you can learn they're all a little different. But generally speaking, some deeds transfer title. Like if I bought it with my friend in California, we could buy it as tenants in common. I mean, they're both separate. When I die, it goes to my estate, whatever that means. And when you die, it goes to yours. Versus joint tenants means if either one of us dies, it passes between us. Like we're almost the same as a married couple. So it depends on how the deed reads, and different states have different rules on that. But generally speaking, if somebody passes and they're not on title, then there's nobody else on title, then you got to probate it to figure out, which is why you go to the court to give them the authority to change title so that somebody can sell the property.
Love it. Okay, talked about the what, talked about the why, we talked about the when, the how. That's where you come in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that generally you need to have a team of people and advisors. Title rep is great in your marketplace because if you're doing property in Kansas, the Kansas laws are maybe not that different, but they're specific to Kansas. So you want a great title rep who knows the probate stuff. And that doesn't just give you coffee cups or pens or takes you to the ball game, but somebody who really knows the title business, I would say, is one of the key resources. I use those vendors, easy-probate.com, for my probate business to refer people to get their probate going and things like that. And then probate attorneys, I bring them some business and they bring me some business. So you want to have a team of people in real estate, and this is just some additional members on your team that you might want. That said, I work with a national real estate company. I know people all over the country. I know title reps all over the country. If you don't have anybody, if you're a listener, call me, text me, email me. I'm glad to try to help.
I love it. Okay, that was the next thing is how. So it sounds like you're a wealth of knowledge. You're filled with this. Do you have a business out of this or what?
Well, I'm a real estate broker. I sell homes in LA County, myself and then my team. We work Southern California, Orange, San Bernardino, Riverside, and San Diego counties. And then I have a bigger team that I've started to build out nationally in Florida, Georgia, New York, and we're adding other states and localities. And then I know people in other states as well. I do a national podcast, probateweekly.com. And then with my company, I do a probate group meeting nationally. Our real estate company has 60,000 agents in the US. So I can find somebody in almost any locality. So if you have a problem, call me, no charge. You don't have to pay me. I love it. I love I love solving these little knots and problems. And oftentimes I can help you find somebody that can help you, finish the job.
I love it. Bill, since you're offering, I'm going to take you up on it. What's your contact phone and email? I'm going to put it in the show notes.
Sure. So my website is thelaprobateexpert.com, THELA probateexpert.com. And my phone number, 310-210-0008.
Oh, you're going too fast for me. Website is thelaprobateexpert.com. Guys, check that out. It's going to be in the show notes if you're driving your car right now. This is going to be a podcast. We also do it on YouTube, guys. So it'll be down in the show notes. The laprobateexpert.com is going to be the website. The phone number is 310-210-0008,
310-210-0008.
Okay.
And if you want to get into the system, good place to start is probateweekly.com. I do a call every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and we record it. We send out a link to YouTube. Bring your questions on. I have people call me from all over the country with different questions. And oftentimes I get attorneys from other states. I had one this week from Orange County. I had somebody last month from Florida. I had somebody from New York. So we'll get people from different states. I have a network of attorneys I'm trying to build out to help people. I want to be the resource where people go to get those questions answered.
Man, I love it. Do you have an email or do you want me to just push people to the website?
Bill at thelaprobateexpert.com. Just Bill, B-I-L-L, at thelaprobateexpert.com.
Man, I'm making my notes here. Probate expert is singular, not experts, right?
I'm it.
Okay.
Yes.
You are the expert. I love it.
Well, I try to be humble about it. There's an area that I feel I am the expert in, but it's really about expertise is not about a location or destination. It's really about a process. So I have to say I work at it every day. I buy the probate code book and update it every year. I watch every podcast I can find on the subject. I've taken every certification I can find on it. I read about it all the time. So it's something I try to work at and grow at every day.
So let me ask you this, Bill, are you utilizing probates to get listings? Are you utilizing probates to get off-market, direct-to-seller, wholesale type deals? Do you use probates for fix and flips, or I guess your people that you work with and team does, and or rentals? I mean, it's essentially just another great tool to find properties, not necessarily always discounted,
Correct,
but in some cases greatly discounted, right?
Yes, some occasionally, like everything else. You have to find a way to grind out a living on day-to-day deals, and once in a while you get a home run. I had 2 home runs this year. I had 2 home runs last year. So yeah, those are.
What's a home run? How do you define that? I'm just curious.
I mean, for me, $50,000 on a deal is a home run.
That's a home run. Yeah.
I'm not a fix and flip guy. I'm just a lipstick flip guy. Personally, I just don't like fixing things. I have customers that do that, and I try to feed them those deals. But if I find a property that I can just trash it out, send in a cleaning crew, make it smell nice, take pictures and put it back in the market and make a profit, that's the deal that I'm going to step in on by myself. So
Bill, and I'm not in a hurry. We got, 10, 15 minutes, of course, still here, but what I miss, I mean, we talked a lot about, the when, the how, the why, the what. You are obviously the expert. I have never talked to anybody that knows as much about this as you. So guys, if you're listening, you're watching, and you have a probate and you have a question, Bill has graciously, generously offered to help and assist. So reach out to him. In the show notes below, you'll have his website, his phone, and his email. Just to recap, thelaprobateexpert.com, 310-210-0008, or Bill at thelaprobateexpert.com. So Bill, what are some of the things that, other people may have asked that I didn't, or, what's some of the stuff that people should maybe be aware of? You know this stuff inside and out.
Well, I think the first thing is people ask me where to get the data from, right? How do I start and what do I do? And I think marketing has to be genuine to you and authentic. And you have to think that through. So for me, I'm not an attorney. My parents wanted me to be an attorney. My father was an attorney, but I was around attorneys a lot. I worked at a law firm as an intern in high school and college. So I knew the business of law.
Yep.
And I kind of like going to court. I mean, I find it fun to put on a suit and tie and go to court and hang out. It's kind of like dressing up. I don't know. I enjoy it.
Sure.
Most people don't. So
Yeah.
don't do it if you don't enjoy it. I like it.
Yeah. So,
So
do you find yourself in court often?
Pre-COVID, I was there every day. So
Okay.
pre-COVID, every day I would show up. Court started at 8:30. I was there at 7:45 in a suit with a cup of coffee right in the main area. If you walked into the probate court, you're walking right by me. Talking to people every day about probate. Investors, wholesalers,
Holy cow.
families.
So I have never, this is my favorite part of the podcast because I always learn something new, right?
Yeah.
But when I get to learn something really new and fun and cool, I get excited. So I just learned something way cool.
Yeah.
You can actually utilize the court
Yep.
in the process
Yep.
to meet the sellers or the owners,
Yes.
right? Essentially.
Yes.
Wow. That is a huge gold nugget right there.
Yeah. It's
So
like
you
a
do
farm.
that. You go down to the courthouse
Right.
typically, and we're not even going to talk pre or post COVID. Just act like,
Right.
because things are
Right.
going to change and it's going to be
Right.
so random with
Right.
with the state and the city and the
Right.
county. And I don't
Right.
even want to go down that
Right.
road, but
Right.
you can actually go to the courthouse.
So think about it. How many investors do you know? And I know a lot that door knock every day, right? They have a
Absolutely.
goal.
I know tons of people driving for dollars.
Driving for dollars. That was the other one, right? So they drive or they door knock and they're looking for people. I could sit. So what I figured out was I could sit there, have a cup of coffee. It's air conditioned. It's perfectly safe. The courthouse has got security. There's sheriffs everywhere. It's the safest place in LA. And they walk right by me. I mean, it was kind of like being invited into a sorority house when I was in college. You mean I could just sit in the sorority house and watch girls walk by and hit up on whoever I want? That was really how I realized the court was for me. Now, I don't know if I'll
I
ever be
still
as
like
proud.
doing that, by the way.
Well, I'm married, so
I'm just
my wife's
kidding.
in the
Neither
room. I
here
can't
nor
really
there,
talk.
Bill. Neither here nor there. But no, you're right.
But-
You're in the court. You're in the court. That's awesome.
Everybody walking by was an attorney or an estate or an investor, so it was just too good. I mean, it was just that, and I don't think anybody teaches to do that. Now my coach, there's a great company that coaches investors and realtors on how to get business and probate, alltheleads.com. And the head coach was Chad Corbett. And so he challenged, when I took the class a few years ago, go to court and learn how it works. So I went there day one. I looked around and I said, geez, there's a lot of money walking around here and nobody else is doing it. Now it costs $20 to park your car for the day. Okay, I get it.
Now that's going to depend on the county and the courthouse and the city.
Yes.
And,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
me, no way. I'm going to find a free spot because I know where my courthouse is at. But yeah,
Right.
regardless.
Whatever. If you're going to go in, you got to wear, if you want to market to attorneys, you got to look like an attorney. You got to wear a suit and tie in LA. I don't know what it's like in Kansas, but okay, fine.
That was
Most
my
people
next
won't do
question.
that.
Are you marketing to attorneys? Are you marketing to homeowners? Both?
Yes, yes, and yes. Yes.
Got
So my strategy was hit the same target from 3 or 4 different angles. So if I talk to the attorney and I'm talking to the homeowner, and the homeowner says, well, our attorney is Joe Smith. Well, that's why I saw Joe Smith in court this week. So it kind of lowered the barriers. And if I saw Joe Smith, hey, Attorney Joe Smith, I was talking to your clients, the Joneses, about the property in Rosemead. Wow, you really do know this stuff. So the more angles of attack on the same homeowner. So just like in marketing, you mail, you social media, you email, you phone call, you door knock, the same list. You don't hit them all differently. You want the same person to see you from 5 angles. And then an attorney's like, oh my God, you're everywhere. Well, I'm not everywhere. I'm just coordinated around you effectively. That's all.
Makes perfect sense. Wow. So we've bought in the past. We've purchased. I think it's a better way to word that.
That's English.
Yeah, that's English, right? We've purchased lots of houses from people going through probate or they had just recently finished the process.
Right.
And we're typically able to get a pretty damn good deal on those properties.
Right.
So guys, if you are listening, this is an awesome way to generate leads. If you're an agent, same thing. You could generate the listings, right?
Right.
Ideally, you're an investor because you can make more money doing that, in my opinion. And it's going to be relative, of course. Also, there's going to come with, pros and cons to both of those, of course, too. But Regardless of what you are, you can turn these into listings, turn these into leads, turn them into wholesales, turn them into fix and flips, turn them into rentals, turn them into creative financing situations. There's so many different options and exits you can do in real estate. And we talk about a lot of those, on this podcast here, Bill. So that is really, really awesome. So wow, I had never heard of somebody just like showing up to the courthouse. So you make this a daily routine, essentially.
5 days a week. I was.
How long are you there for? Is it just an hour or two, or are you there all day?
So again, it's the largest probate court in America, so it's a little different than other markets. And it was 5 days a week there. So I would be there at 7:45. It took me about 25 minutes to drive there, and I would stay. My minimum was to 10:30.
Yep.
So I tried to see a sale minimum every day. And sometimes I see 2 or 3. So I saw more court sales in the last 2.5 years than any judge, than any attorney, and then any other agent.
Seeing them all, right?
And people say, well, you can't do that. I say, well, the law says you can't, but I know I saw Judge so-and-so do it, and here's how he did it. And so I'm actually advising attorneys on how they could file their papers to get approved. Like COVID, for example, allowed them to expedite certain things if you knew what to file. What's that worth to an attorney, right? They can't pay for that service.
Especially these guys that don't know this in and out, and they're doing, like you said in the beginning of this show, like, they're like, maybe they're a personal injury attorney, or like maybe they're a criminal attorney, and then they like get a person, and then they get a probate, and they're like, well, hell, we're going to take the money. Of course, we don't know the first damn thing about it. They can call Bill.
Right.
Bill knows.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
That's really cool.
Right.
That's really
And then
cool.
I learned how to address the court when I bid, how to talk to the judge. You always, Your Honor this, Your Honor that. You stand up when you talk to them, that kind of thing. So that the attorneys see me, and I'm not going to embarrass them. I'm like part of their team. So it's just natural. If they're going to work with an agent, why would they not work with somebody who knows what they're doing? And same with investors. There's certain investors who rip them off and they can't stand. But occasionally there's an investor who they see regularly. And they know this guy knows the game and he plays by the rules. And if he makes an offer, let's try to find a way to work with him.
I love it. So approaching the attorneys is really easy for you because you know more than most of these guys, which is crazy, but awesome at the same time. Let's talk a little bit just for a minute about, how do you approach the owner, the seller? Because they may be mourning. They may I get a lot of people that, ask what do I do when I'm cold calling, or how do I send that direct mail piece? And I'm like, just don't act like you know anything at all about the probate. Just act like you're interested in the property. That's typically a good way to kind of at least avoid it. But you may have some tips and tricks on ways to approach these people that I don't know.
So again, I would direct, I'm not affiliated with them anyway, but I would direct them to alltheleads.com. Has some great training scripts, what to say for free online. You can buy their data if you want as well. They have coaching as well, but for free, they do a role play once a week, and they have a mastermind thing that's free as well.
Allleads.com.
Allleads.com, great resource for anybody who wants to learn how to do this business. That's been my coaching product. What I would say is when they file a probate, they're not in mourning anymore, right? They at some point they said, hey, it's time to get rid of this house. What do we have to do? Oh my God, we have to do all that? Fine, let's get started. And they fill out the paperwork or they hire their attorney. So I wouldn't worry about it. And I would just reference the probate. I wouldn't reference the person who passed. So I wouldn't even talk about somebody died. I'm sorry for your loss. Don't even go there unless they bring it up and start crying.
I don't.
Hey, you filed I see you filed a probate. It looks like you have 123 Main Street is one of the properties of probate. I'm a real estate broker. I help estates like yours get top dollar. Are you looking for a quick cash sale? You're looking to put the property in your retail market. How can I help you? How can I be of service?
So simple. Just don't overthink it. Just be a human.
As an investor, I see you on the market. Want to be interested in an all-cash offer? We can close quickly in 10 days once you have your paperwork. I can even help you through the probate process if you get stuck on that.
Right.
And you always want to ask the question, what's the biggest challenge you've had so far in the probate? They're going to tell you, oh my God, the paperwork.
It's the paperwork, or it's the attorney, or it's driving 4 hours to the courthouse, or whatever that problem is. 30%, just help them with that. Yeah.
About 7% hate the attorney.
Sell it to them. Right.
But 7% hate the attorney after they hired them because it's not the attorney's fault. It's just the process is just difficult. It's like going to the post office. Whenever they may go to the post office and go, I love that postal employee. They were the greatest. Never happens, right? So that's what probate is. It's just the same process.
Man, I absolutely love it. Guys, you heard it from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Bill Gross. Bill is out of LA, and he is truly the LA probate expert. I love it. Bill, I know I've learned a ton on this episode. And again, I'm super happy and grateful that we got the opportunity to connect. and record an episode about this today. Because again, we haven't done a lot of probate stuff on the podcast. We do a little bit in our business, but we haven't really been that vocal about it. And at the end of the day, probate is a normal thing. It's I don't want to say natural, but because death is natural, right? But the process of what happens behind that, assuming they don't have a living, a living trust?
Right.
Assuming they don't have a living trust, 99 times out of 100, they're going to probably have to go through this probate process. If you, as the heir, want to be able to sell the particular property or whatever it may be. So
and they want to sell the house. The season's gone, so they generally want to sell the property, whatever it is.
I love it. Bill, thank you again. Any parting words, anything you want to add before we wrap up?
The only thing I'd say is I don't want to make it sound easy. I think oftentimes people say to me, I hear probate's an easy way to get business. No, there's no easy way. I work hard 5.5 days a week. Every work day I put my effort in, and I'm consistent about it. But I'll say this, like anything else, if you make it your specialty, make it your focus, you work at it consistently over time, you can make more money than you ever dreamed of, for sure.
I know where I'm going to be whenever I have a free morning to kill some time. I'm going to drive down to the courthouse, find the probate court, get familiar with it.
Let me know. I love hearing experiences because every court's different. If you know how it works, you've got some magic info that's worth a lot of money. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Nobody's ever told me it was a waste of time. I've never heard that. It's always, oh my God, I saw the judge and the person fills the paperwork and the judge signs it right on the spot, which we don't do in LA.
Every probate deal we've ever bought, we've done 2 to 3 times the profit typically on those deals versus any of the other deals that we're doing.
There you go.
So usually,
how many of those do you want?
They're usually really good deals to get. They're few and far between, but then again, I'm not marketing to them. I stumble across them. But if I start marketing to them and find these people, networking with the probate attorneys, Bill does this in his sleep, but to any of us that are listening or watching, you don't even necessarily have to go to the courthouse, although that's a great place to meet them. We've had a little bit of success in the past sending mailers to probate attorneys, or maybe even showing up at their office and handing them a card and shaking their hand. But, what better place to cross paths with all of these guys on a consistent basis than at the actual courthouse? I love it. All right, hold
on. I mean, if I could jump in just one thing. Please. The obvious thing is the ones you closed all had attorneys. Did you ever take them out to lunch? You're an expert. You closed successfully, right? So I think the thing we have to always start with is people we already know. And I would say to investors, go through your Rolodex, find the probates you did do, find who the attorney was. Say, hey, I'd like to do more probates. Where do you think I could find them? Do you get any of those I can make a cash offer on? You can mail out to people cold, or you can talk to people you already know. Start with the ones you already know.
I love it. Bill, you have been a wealth of knowledge today.
Thanks, man.
Again, thanks for coming on the show. Guys, don't forget, you make your money when you buy. You get paid when you sell in this business.
I like that.
So figure out how to buy right, and you can reduce almost all, if not all, of your risk when you buy a property right. Probate is one of many ways to find deals, and Bill just laid it all out for you guys. All right. So I'm in the show notes. We'll have all the notes that I took across this podcast, along with Bill's contact information. Bill, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
And we are signing off. Until next time, guys, we will talk to you then. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support. And remember, you make your money when you buy, you get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.